Welcome, Tom, to the IoT For All Podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you. Before we get into the questions, perhaps you can maybe give a quick overview of background introduction of yourself, as well as the company and what you all are focused on.
Hi, my name's Thomas Neubauer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Dimetor. I'm sort of born and raised in telecoms. We have started 8 years ago a company called Dimetor, where we are producing software that turns data from telecom networks into safety and mission critical information in other industry verticals, being aviation, being cyber security and defense.
Very nice, very nice. So, very interesting topics I wanted to get to that we really don't have, or we haven't had a chance to cover on the podcast before, or at least not recently. But I wanted to start a little bit more high level. How do you see the role of telecommunications evolving in the future of drone operations, especially for BB loss missions, things like that?
Well, historically, telecoms and aviation had absolutely no touch points. It was more like, when you enter a plane, please switch off your phone. It's a safety issue. But with uncrewed aviation, with drones, it's becoming now a very big thing for safety. And the reason is this, in order to fly a drone beyond visual line of sight, you have, like in general aviation, you must have a pilot in command who is responsible for the safety of the aircraft. Well, in traditional aviation, that pilot sits on the aircraft, but in remote operation, the pilot can no longer sit on a small drone. So pilot has to be somewhere remotely. And still, this requirement of having a pilot in command must be satisfied. Therefore, the connectivity between the ground control station, the pilot, and the aircraft must be mission critical, safe, low latency, and all of that. And that brings now the telecom system providers and the network operators in, where it becomes absolutely critical, safety critical, to involve them. And they're doing that in different levels.
Now, when it comes to airborne RF, I know this is something that's a very big part of your all solution. Could you just kind of explain what that is? How does it kind of enable like aerial IoT and safe long range drone operations today? Just maybe you have a step the stage of what it is, how it works, what the benefits are, and then kind of the role it's really playing.
So again, for the key point is about beyond visual line of sight, or beyond visual line of sight enables one-to-many operations. So you can have one pilot, which could be a machine, and you have many different drones up in the air. So in order to enable automated and safe, scalable operation of drones, you must have some sort of a digital infrastructure in the airspace. The telecom system providers, the telecom operators are providing the telecom infrastructure. But in order to get the flight approvals, in order to get the automation of the flight management, you need to know where in the airspace you have sufficient connectivity. You need to know what is the number of people on the ground, because with any given drone, you're only allowed to fly over a certain number of people. And so this is data that comes from the telecom systems, and AirborneRF is processing that data within the telecom networks. And through standardized interfaces, we're providing that to the aviation systems, and we're directly integrating that information with the flight management systems, the UTM systems, and authority systems to automate the flight approval, automate the risk assessment, and automate the flight operation as such.
How varied are those requirements given the range a drone may fly? So I imagine the amount of people around on the ground varies from region to region, area to area. The connectivity obviously is pretty varied depending on where you're going, which is very similar to other IoT solutions we talk about where things are in transit across different environments, different regions, and you're switching between networks. So how is that? How varied is that, and how big of a challenge was that to kind of sort out and solve?
The biggest challenge was to actually define such interfaces, because historically these two industries had nothing to do with each other. So in that role, I'm leading the interface harmonization and standardization for the last 8 years on the ticket from something called the GSMA, the representative organization for all the telecoms, and GUTMA, the Global UTM Association, representing the UTM industry. So bringing those two together and defining those standards was one of the key elements. When it comes to how different is that, by geography or by different aircraft? Well, there are different thresholds, obviously, for different type of aircraft, different size of aircraft, different weight of aircraft, which is all based on, risk thresholds and what sort of mitigation technologies they have in place. But technically speaking, we are dealing with two highly standardized industries. The one is the telecom industry that works on 3GPP standards. And then we have the aviation industry that works on global, aviation standards and requirements, so-called MOPS, minimum operational performance standards. That goes together, but bringing the classified information that telcos are not allowed to share, we need to process that before we share it. And that's what we do with AirborneRF. And then we are providing the results to the respective systems so that for whatever drone operation, for whatever type of drone, for whatever application case, being it, a first responder, being an inspection, being a parcel delivery, that is then just a threshold.
So I wanted to ask you about the work you're doing with some of your customers. So I know you work with Vodafone, Verizon, and so forth. What are the most active or I guess promising telecom-driven drone applications that you're seeing right now?
We see telecoms engaging in three different levels. One, they are providing a SIM card, a data plan, plus some additional data. So this is sort of infrastructure as a service. Then some telcos are providing also management platforms on top of it, where they're providing a holistic platform as a service. And some telco operators are becoming drone operators themselves. And here is why. A drone can essentially only handle three or can only transport and deliver three different things. Number one, sooner or later, people, probably more later. Number two, any type of parcel, medical or whatever last mile delivery. And the third one is data. So if you think about, an inspection or a first responder, what the drone does is it has a sensor and delivers data from one point to a ground control or to a mission control. So, and that delivery of the data from somewhere to a ground control is a wireless telecom service. So, technically speaking, that's a core business of the telco. And so clearly they want to engage. And this is where you see the drone more as an IoT device that is delivering data. And number one, you need to make sure that this IoT device operates safely in the airspace. But number two, it delivers the payload according to the requirements of the mission. And that is where telcos are deeply interested and as it's part of their core operation. And this is where we see, people, Swisscom, CityMesh, and many others provide end-to-end services, them being also the operator of these flying IoT devices.
That's a great way to put it. I think thinking about the potential, not only what's happening now in the space and what we're seeing kind of just as, people, but just understanding where it's going and what's likely going to be possible and what excites you the most. Obviously, there's two pieces of this that I'm thinking about, the telecom piece and the aviation piece, which I imagine have their own, at least initially had their own kind of separate worlds, but they're starting to come together a good bit more. So how are you all working with kind of those two different spaces to help those industries align in like the language they speak, just things that are important to one versus the other, and why they need to kind of come together a bit more closely than maybe they were doing before?
So these two industries, as I mentioned before, they have been working in isolation for the longest time. And when breakthrough innovation really happens at the intersection of industries that had nothing to do with each other before. And that's exactly what happens with drones, where, when people became aware that the telecom industry will be a key enabler for drones, ACJA, aerial connectivity joint activity, was formed between GSMA and the Global UTM Association so that, you know, benefiting from each other, providing data from one side to the other, and enabling an overall business opportunity. That happened in 2018. So that was actually, one of these efforts with an organization or with an event called Harmonized Skies. I can only recommend that. It's happening every year, Harmonized Skies, where it's all about this bringing these industries together, making more of it together. And that is where we also define what services are needed from a aviation perspective towards the telecom side. And on the other hand, what sort of services can be provided by the telecom industry to automate and enable uncrewed aviation.
How are the telcos kind of viewing all of this kind of work now, everything going on with drones? I imagine trying to get telcos on board, understand the business case. Many operators may still be unsure of kind of where this is going and what the value is for them. So what's missing? How does that gap get closed? And what have you kind of seen from a progress standpoint kind of pertaining to that?
The biggest challenge up front is the expected timeline for return on investment. So when you look into the telecom world, you have an expected return on investment that is, 6 to 9 to 12 months to make some money with it. Where in aviation, it's 6 to 10 years. So it's an order of magnitude totally different, and that is sort of the biggest challenge when it comes to regulation in aviation versus business cases on the telecom side. But what we see right now happening is with applications such as drone as first responders, where the value and inspection of critical infrastructure, for example, and of course defense, I'll come to that. The business cases are so big and so obvious that there's some acceleration going on. And we now see also political bodies on both sides of the Atlantic actually moving forward in the US with some executive orders to push forward with beyond visual line of sight. In Europe, with some additional regulation progress with SORA 2.5, an automation mechanism to do the risk assessment, which is coming alive right now. So there's good progress to make those things happen. And the telcos are moving step by step from infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, all the way to drone operators to get a bigger piece of the pie.
On the regulatory side of things, what are the biggest frictions that you're seeing face when working with, aviation authorities? I mean, as a consumer, I know that owns a drone, there's obviously tons of different, laws and rules and things that need to be followed. But I imagine kind of on this larger scale, it's a whole different beast in of itself. So what are the biggest frictions you're seeing with aviation authorities, and what kind of progress are you kind of seeing being made, and what makes you optimistic about that?
The fundamental challenge is that there is only one airspace, right? So you need to integrate small drones with large airliners and make sure that they actually work together in an automated and peaceful way without having any conflicts or mid-air collisions. That is the biggest aspect. And in order to do that, there is a lot of technology push and a lot of digitization from the uncrewed space. Obviously, the regular airliners, they do not see huge value in that. They're just seen as a disturbance. That's why there is naturally, from a natural perspective, it's a very complex thing. Technically, there is more and more evidence that this, strategic and tactical deconfliction, detect and avoid, those systems are coming into place and they are becoming regulated. So the regulation is being put into place. And when we look into the biggest milestone in Europe is now with something called SORA 2.5, so specific operations risk assessment, which allows an automatism to enable flight authorization based on the risk assessment. And that is something that will allow and trigger now automation of and scalable operation of beyond visual line of sight drones. So that makes me very positive. And similar concepts are followed around the world. They may be called slightly different, but that's the biggest step forward.
One last question I would ask you before I let you go here is if you had a room full of telco execs and regulators today, what's one of the things that you would ask them to prioritize to accelerate, safe, scalable drone operations, or just what would be something that would be top of mind to you?
Get it going. You can over-regulate many things and not get going. So having a risk-based assessment with, getting into the operations, I think is ultimately the thing that is required to make the ecosystem work and to have to capitalize on the huge level of innovation that is actually delivered through these advanced technologies, both on the aviation as well as on the telecom side.
So let me add last thing here is for our audience who might want to learn more about what you all are doing, follow up, touch base. What's the best way they can do that?
So the best way to do that is to connect to us via our webpage, Dimetor.com. And there we have also, you find all sorts of industry news, examples, regulatory aspects that we are providing, but also example cases from our customers. And of course, you can contact us in an easy way or follow us on the social.
Well, Thomas, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been great. Great conversation. A lot of questions that I just, as a person, did not have the answers to and did not know enough about. But I'm seeing this industry grow and become more popular, being, covered more in the news every day. But I know there's a lot of pieces behind the scenes that are super important for this to enable to scale and grow and kind of reach this potential. So thanks for coming on here and kind of educating our audience on what's going on there. And love to have you back maybe later this year. We can dive into kind of progress that's being made and talk further.
Excellent. Thanks for having me here. Have a great day.